Hi guys, thanks for tuning in to another episode of Nuggets News. Today we welcome a very special guest, and that is CZ from Binance. So thanks for joining us today, CZ.
Hello, thanks for having me.
Well, there's been lots going on in China, good and bad, and I wanted to get you on and ask you some questions about everything and I guess clarify some stuff lately. But I thought it'd be good to start and give people some background and context because the way that everything operates in China is very different to the West. So, what are your thoughts about the Chinese economy? There's lots of moving pieces at the moment. We've got the trade war and currency wars. So, how do you view China on the world stage? Do they want to be number one? Are they trying to outcompete the US in technology and all that sort of thing?
Yeah, I think China has grown very significantly in the last decade or 2 decades or so, and the internet in China is very developed. They have some really big companies, really valuable companies. They have lots of users. So China is a very strong economy now. And if you look at the sort of duty-free stores in airports, they're usually marked by the Chinese. So China has a very strong economy, and people are wealthy, and there are a very large number of wealthy individuals. So they have a huge impact. And China's goal, like my sort of personal understanding, which could be wrong to be honest, is that China is very actively trying to promote the use of RMB as of China to be the world dominant currency. But they also have the capital control, which they're very sensitive about if you bring RMB out of China. So they have the offshore RMB versus the onshore RMB. And also China's very smart in the way they manage or regulate the internet. So everybody knows that there is a firewall, but they walled off the internet in China, but China is a large enough population that the internet companies in China are very successful. So I'm guessing that they're going to try a very similar approach to blockchain. Whether that works or not, we don't know yet. So we'll have to see.
Yeah, I guess that brings me to my next question about crypto and how that their stance is. Maybe the history of crypto in China as well as the history of Binance in China, because you guys did start there, and then we saw that real crackdown in 2017 on exchanges and ICOs, particularly scams. And again, there's been some massive scams lately. So run us through that history of crypto and Binance in China.
Sure, we do have quite a bit of history with China. So, so I joined. I came to the space in 2013, end of 2013, when I was in China. I learned about Bitcoin on a poker table in Shanghai, and then I went to work in blockchain.info, and then a Chinese exchange for a while. Yeah. So we've seen that grow through all of that history. In 2013, there was a memo saying that they do not allow using of Bitcoin to purchase of goods online. Specifically, they do not allow labeling of prices in crypto, in Bitcoin back then. Yeah. So that was a memo in 2013. And after that, that was like the first China ban. So price dropped. I think price went to about $1,000 per Bitcoin at that point. And then subsequently, over about a half a year or so, it dropped to about $200. I think at worst it was like $150.
Yeah.
So that's in 2014-ish. And then, 2015 passed. China's central bank, Mr. Zhou, the chairman of Central Bank of China, said blockchain is an important technology, and then all the banks were looking at the technology. And so China has always been pro this technology. 2017, and that's when Binance started. We started in July in Shanghai, and we had an office there back then. By September, China issued a memo again saying that the crypto exchanges are not allowed in the country, and neither are ICOs. So we said we're gonna, and by October we moved out. So that's the end of the Binance office in Shanghai. Yeah. And after that, since then, Binance have had no offices in Shanghai whatsoever. So that's just a pure fact.
Yeah.
Have I traveled? Have our teams traveled to the country? Yes. They have been traveling, personal traveling, and even for work, etc. Just sort of conferences, etc. And but does that mean everywhere I go is a Binance office? Probably no. So Binance, we use a very different model where we don't really have offices. We don't. Binance does not. We very clearly we do not have legal entities in China. We're not technically possible to rent the office for Binance in China.
Yeah.
So we don't have an office. We did make a couple investments in China. So we have portfolio companies that still operate, have people in China. We most recently reinvested in a news company, Halving, that's also operating out of Beijing. So they have offices in China, but they really have no relationship with Binance, the exchange, other than we invested some money in those businesses.
Yeah.
So and I think the TV news out of Shanghai, the Oriental news from Shanghai, really said it very clearly. And Dovey has explained this very clearly in her tweet, which is that office is used by an outsourced customer service office. It's not, so it's not a Binance office. So that clears the office issue up. But China overall recently is very clear in that stance, is that they want to promote the technology, and they want especially promote the education of the technology. My understanding would be they want people to understand the technology just like people understand the internet.
Yeah.
Because only after you have a deep understanding of it can you come up with a very smart way to manage it.
Yeah.
So there probably will be certain limitations with the blockchain technologies in China. I think the route I would guess would be very similar to what was done by what's done in the internet space. So how it's going to shape up, we don't know yet. But it's promoting education in blockchain. It's promoting technology development. But it's very clear that it's not promoting cryptocurrencies. So China does not want to use Bitcoin or Ethereum or other coins.
Yeah.
So that much is clear. So that's pretty much the situation.
So do you think the whole China bans Bitcoin every year, it's more of a Western perception from the outside looking in? As you said, they've been pretty clear that they're going to be pro the technology, but the other day they waved the green flag and everyone got really excited and we saw a big increase in price. Would you say that nothing has really changed? They're just maybe clarifying a few things here and there and people get really excited?
Yeah, to be honest, to me or to the people who know China really well, nothing has really changed.
Yeah.
I mean, it was refreshing to see the president of the country, President Xi Jinping, talk about it.
Yeah.
So that's kind of refreshing. But since 2015, China has always been pro blockchain technology.
Yeah.
They were never really sort of pro Bitcoin or pro like cryptocurrency. So that part was always clear.
Yeah.
But when the country president says, okay, we want to develop blockchain technology, of course that gets spread out around the news, and there's a lot of hype around it, and that causes the Bitcoin price to grow. And then the Chinese government probably are thinking, hey, that's not what we intended. Let's clarify.
Yeah.
And let's push back.
Yeah.
So that causes another sort of another message which is interpreted as a Bitcoin ban again.
Yeah.
Again, it is my understanding is today it's still very much perfectly legal to own Bitcoins in China, and actually there were court cases where people lost Bitcoin and the court have ruled in their favor, protecting those assets. So Bitcoin is not banned, but there is restrictions on operating the exchange and issuing ICOs in China. Yeah.
For sure. And do you think this is maybe just paving the way and clearing the air for the digital yuan that the central bank is talking about? And do you think that will affect things in certain ways in China, or roughly it's going to stay the same and they're just going to launch this and increase their, I guess, monitoring surveillance powers?
I think logically speaking, it's definitely in preparation. It makes sense to be in preparation for the digital yuan or the DCEP coin.
Yeah.
So I think my understanding would be it would be very logical for the Chinese government to say, hey, let's DCEP, the Chinese central bank issued coin.
Yeah.
It should be the only one used in the country, and this should be. And also the DCEP, people have taken that out of context. What it was originally named as digital currency / electronic payments. So they were used for this thing should really be used for online payments.
Yeah.
So it's not a crypto. I think it's not going to be a cryptocurrency like Bitcoin where you can do whatever you want with it. So I think there's a lot of loss in translation that happened. So the DCEP is not out yet, but if people were to guess, it's definitely going to be China's going to promote its own currency instead of the other cryptocurrencies that is not controlled by them. How much control, how much restrictions they're going to apply to this DCEP, we still don't know yet. So we have to wait and see.
Yeah. And do you think maybe that it is going to allow them to trace who's maybe going into Bitcoin or doing other things? They're going to be on-ramps between different cryptos, or you think it's going to be very permissioned and they're just going to allow it to do certain things, like you said, online payments?
To be honest, I don't know. We don't have that information yet.
Yeah.
So I've heard various different conflicting rumors or like info, but the short answer is we don't know yet. We just have to wait and see.
It's a little bit like when Facebook announced Libra. We've got to wait and see, and then it's all over the news. So I guess that brings us to what happened the other day. So the office raid incident, it was all over the news, and we've had some people say that Binance did have an outpost there, which you kind of touched on already, and other people said it's large. Oh no, it was only quite small. We also had tweets or some news articles saying that you're planning on reopening in Shanghai recently. So I guess I wanted you to really once and for all clear it up. What happened? Did you get raided? Was it shut down? What's the truth of the whole situation?
Okay, so let's just put it on the record very clearly. Binance has never had Binance after 2017 does not have an office in China. So since January 2018, Binance does not have an office in China. Binance technically cannot have an office in China. Binance doesn't even have a legal entity that can sign a lease in China. Yeah. So that much is clear. As far as I understand, there was no police raid on any of that particular office belonging to Bobby Finance. Also didn't happen. So that's just pure FUD. That's just pure, really bad, irresponsible journalism.
Yeah.
So that's not. I encourage free press and I encourage investigative journalism, but that's just bad.
Yeah.
That's just not that. Yeah. So there's a couple of things I want to touch up on while we're on this topic. So many people confuse about transparency and privacy. So I think those two things, we want to be as transparent as possible, but we also want to be respectful for other people's privacies. So whatever you want to keep private to yourself, we should not, like for example, I should not dig out your address and publish it online. That's your privacy, right? So people should be able to choose what they want to keep private. And in business, we have privacy issues we have privacy respects as well. There's NDA clauses when we work with certain vendors or not certain vendors. When we invest in a portfolio company, we have NDAs we sign. We keep certain things private. And this is why I don't really want to comment on who owns that office, etc. But it's definitely not Binance. And Binance itself, we also do not publish our addresses. So that's our choice. That's how we choose to operate. And if people don't like it, they don't have to use us. But it's really not. So this is why we don't really comment on the office issue. But there was absolutely no police raid on any office that's mentioned anywhere. So that's just very poor.
Yeah, and I guess you came out and said that you were going to sue the block. And is this about accountability in media and the debate about truth and freedom of the press? I guess you've got to draw the line somewhere. So what's your thoughts there?
So my initial thought is, my thought always is, we will do everything to protect ourselves and also our users, also our BNB holders. So if we have, so we're still evaluating about it, but there are pros and cons about doing it, their costs, etc. Yeah. But fundamentally, I think people should have the right to protect themselves, and people should have the right to their own privacy. And people should also promote transparency. Like, we want to operate as transparently as we can, but at the same time we need to be able to protect our privacy for many reasons. So I think whether to sue them or not, I think our lawyers are still evaluating about it. We'll see what happens. I don't know yet, to be honest.
Okay, I appreciate you discussing it so openly. So maybe let's move on to a more positive note. And you are expanding. I think you've been talking about 180 countries or currencies, and you recently acquired Wazir in India. So India is, again, it's one of those, I guess, crypto countries that's always in the news. So what's happening there in India?
So again, actually, with India, I know much less because just because of background issue, background and culture gaps. But India, very similar to China, is a very large country. There's a very large number of people, and managing a large country is difficult. And so my guess is that there are very often blanket rules that sounds very scary. But my understanding is the what we call the Bitcoin ban in India is also a proposed bill. It's not even passed, so it's not law. So people very often confuse a proposed bill versus a passed bill that's passed into law.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of confusion about that. And I think basically my understanding is that if that bill is ever passed, then yes, then maybe there will be some legal implications. But right now, holding Bitcoins in India is perfectly legal. And we want to promote cryptocurrency there. Our goal is to promote access to crypto. And we found the best partner we can find. And Wazirek is very strong founders. Nis Chow is really, really strong. And he and I hit it off really, really well. So we were happy to be able to support them.
And that's the goal in these other 180 countries or currencies, trying to find partners. And if there's no one there, you're going to try and bootstrap it yourself?
Absolutely. So basically, certain countries are trickier. Certain countries are easier. Certain countries are trickier for us. In countries where I don't have the expertise, it's much better to find a partner who have the expertise and find ways to work with them. That potentially could include investing in them, acquiring them, partnership with them. All of those things are possibilities. And in other countries, we may just say, hey, we're going to establish an office there, run a separate exchange there, like we did in the Binance US.
Yeah.
And in other countries, we may say, hey, if there's a payment service provider, we can integrate directly on Binance.com, then that's a good solution as well. Yeah. So there's multiple solutions, but the goal is very simple. We want to enable access to crypto. And right now, most of 99.9% of the money are in fiat. We need to move those money into crypto.
Yeah. I guess there's no shortage of crypto lovers in Australia. And you guys came here in some capacity with Binance Lite, and you've done heaps of work with Travel by Bit. And I know today you had another pretty exciting announcement. Did you want to run us through that?
Yes. So we did invest in Travel by Bit quite some time ago. I think they're a very innovative company, and their mission is fully aligned with ours, which is to increase the adoption of crypto and provide access. Yeah. Their first goal was to turn airports into crypto hubs. Yeah. So because that's where people travel, right? So I think that's really good. So they've been doing that for quite a while. They launched a travel website where you can pay with cryptocurrency, including Bitcoin, BNB, and other currencies. We had the team there had a few interactions with the Australian government, with the Australian Premier, and he's a really cool guy. We're also launching what they call a crypto street in Australia, yes, where there's 2 streets with shops. They're gonna all accept crypto, and the POS is gonna be installed. BNB is gonna be accepted there. We were going to call it BNB Street, but we thought it was probably better to call it Crypto Street. Yeah. So there's a news article coming out today, yeah, things are going. I'm actually not really involved in that project, so I actually don't know all the details. I did read about the news, the draft, but I think it contains a lot more detail than I can talk about myself.
Yeah, I think it's South Australia and Adelaide, the premier that's very open to blockchain. That's the guy who you're referring to.
Yes, Marshall.
Yeah,
yes.
Yeah. And I thought I also saw some news just an hour or so ago that you guys are launching a travel card with Travel by Bit.
Yes. So that's actually the major news for today, which is a debit card. It's a kind of gift card that you can use as a debit card that you can charge. You can charge with crypto on, and you can spend BNB on. So that's actually the main news. I apologize.
No, that's all right. I was thinking, geez, that's not the one that I was thinking of, but that's okay. So. Getting on to Binance, and lending and staking has been really growing, and it's something that I definitely think is going to be a theme for 2020. We see so many of these proof of stake networks and staking and rewards. So you guys, I guess, have welcomed lending and staking with open arms, and I think it's becoming competition for banks and other financial institutions in a lot of ways. So plans to continue to add more coins and more rewards and give people the yield that they can't get in their bank account.
Yes, absolutely. I think basically, there's a couple of different parts to it. There's a staking, which is usually baked into the blockchain or the specific coins, yes, into their issuing protocols. And that's just a benefit that if you hold coins yourself, if you follow the procedures, you can get those additional coins that's being distributed. Yeah. And we felt that as part of protecting the users, we need to protect the users' interest for those, and we should give the users those benefits. So it requires a little bit of work on our side, and we felt that we should just we should do that just for free. So we give 100% of the staking rewards to our users, and so it's a very simple staking service. Whereas there are other third-party independent staking services, you have to give your coin to them, and your coin sits there, does nothing, and then you can collect those rewards. But most of those third-party platforms are much smaller, and they're less known, they're less credible to some extent. So most users already have a lot of funds sitting with us. So we said, well, why don't we just provide this? And most of the other platforms charge a fee for that. We said, well, because we actually make a fee from trading, and it's already a good enough business. So why don't we just provide that for free?
Yeah.
So that actually got a lot of interest, and it actually helps us quite tremendously. I think we're going to see a competition between the exchanges and different service providers just provide a zero fee staking service. So because we provide it already.
Yeah.
And and that attracts a lot of funds to us. Sorry, you were going to say something?
I was just going to say that probably ties into the lending, which is different for the trading side of things. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I was going to say on the lending part, it's slightly different because we actually have a margin service where people borrow to trade, and we want other users to be able to lend their coins to the margin traders who actually the margin traders they pay an interest on the borrowed amount, and the margin traders, because they're usually high frequency short term traders, they trade in and out very quickly. They're not super sensitive to interest rates.
Yeah.
So whether it's like if it's 5% or 7% or 9%, they don't really they care, but not super. They don't care they don't care a lot.
Yeah.
If it's like above 10%, if it's 18%, yes, they complain. But
yeah.
Between we found a sweet spot between 5 to 9%, they're okay.
Yeah.
Depending on the coin, depending on the availability of the lending, etc.
Yeah.
So now they're paying this interest, and we can give part of that interest to the user who's doing the lending of the coin. And this actually provides a very nice interest rate for the lenders. And what the best part is, all of this activity happens in the platform. So the money actually never leaves the platform. The margin trader, they actually have to put in collateral. So say that they go 5x, and they have to put in 20% of the collateral. If their position drops by 19%, we start liquidating, and we can recover the rest of the lended amount.
Yeah.
So that's relatively low risk for the lenders. So it's not like we're giving the money away out of the platform for somebody to do a project, hoping they will return the money plus interest sometime later. So this provides a very low risk way of lending, and the interest rates are so much better than putting your money in the bank. So we actually think that this could be a huge driver for adoption later on, especially for stable coins. If you keep your US dollars in your bank, you probably get 1 to 2% interest rate.
Yeah.
Whereas on lending, you get 5-10%, and you just have to convert your fiat into a stable coin. That's it.
Yeah, and just for people at home, when we talk about the 9%, traders aren't paying that when they open a position. It's an at 9% annual yield. That's what we're talking about, and that's the 9% annualized that you can earn, and so on as well. So I guess that ties into Binance DEX. So lots of integrations lately, which I really love, from the Trust Wallet to even some of the DeFi stuff. So talk about everything that's happening on Binance DEX, and maybe one of the criticisms has been it's more centralized when it starts. So is there plans to add more validators and decentralization?
Absolutely. So the Binance chain, the Binance DEX, and that whole ecosystem is an ecosystem on its own now.
Yeah.
There's multiple developers. There's a lot of other projects doing a lot of work development for us, for the Binance chain. And there's some really innovative products, innovative solutions, including DeFi, etc. We are actually going to open source because the community is so active. We are now. I just had a talk with some of the core developers on Binance Chain. We collectively agreed that we will open source Binance Chain, the entire source code, to the core developer communities first. So the guys who are actively developing for Binance Chain are going to get the full source code, because this way they can actually do more development work for Binance Chain. So that's happening now. So this is a brand new thing that we literally just decided yesterday. Well, kind of decided yesterday.
Yeah.
But we'll start pushing this out now. And so for Binance Chain, the original intent was always you will be fully open source, you will be fully open, etc. The number of validators will remain small for performance reasons.
Yeah.
If you have 1,000 validators talking to each other, the performance is slow.
Yes.
So we have the community of Binance chain developers have been focusing on features instead of governance itself, because governance can turn itself to be pretty complex. We're hoping to borrow some other governance mechanism of a successful chain soon. But we are in the process of open sourcing that to the core developer communities. So not just the core Binance chain developers, but guys who are doing like layer 2 development for Binance chain. There's a layer 2 smart contract initiative that's going on. There's like Oracle initiatives that's going on. They all interact with the chain.
Yeah.
Before we were giving them just the API or the API source code, but now we're going to give them the entire source code so that they can actually go much deeper and potentially change some parts of the chain. And so that's happening now. So it's really interesting.
Fantastic. Yeah, we've definitely seen some issues with governance on like EOS at the moment. So that's something that we haven't really fixed in the community for that scale of centralized versus decentralized. It's all great, and it's good to hear that that's becoming more decentralized soon. So the next question I had was about DeFi. It's probably the hottest sector at the moment, and I've been a big supporter of Maker with my t-shirt and Synthetics and all these projects. So there are actually two projects that aren't on Binance yet. So is Binance doing anything in the DeFi space, and do you have plans to maybe list a few of the top DeFi projects going forward?
I think overall we're definitely very encouraging or supportive of DeFi projects. And on Binance.com we're doing CeFi. And in the meeting, in the chat with the Binance Chain developers yesterday, we're saying we want to also do DeFi on Binance Chain.
Yeah.
The two things doesn't have to have any correlation. We're not worried about one cannibalizing the other. Both should just compete and see which one gets more users.
Yeah.
So we're very supportive of DeFi project and DeFi solutions. On listing though, we use the same listing criteria for listing on .com. And for DEX listing, there's a community forum which people can comment on and the validators vote.
Yeah.
For .com, we look at number of users. That's the key metric. If you have like millions of users, it's a no-brainer for Binance.com to list you. And if you don't have millions of users, then we look at product market. Then it's more of a subjective judgment. But it's the same process. We don't have preferential treatment to one type of project over another. We look at all projects equally.
Yeah, cool. Next question I had was about new products on Binance or new uses for BNB. So I was very bullish, and I wrote up a big piece about IEOs and all those use cases at the start of the year when Binance had that tremendous run. And then I was thinking, I think that IEO is starting to maybe lose a bit of momentum. And I was surprised that you guys have continued to add more utility. And I think margin trading is a big part of that. But any other features or utilities for BNB that you can share with us?
Sure. So we're doing a couple pretty significant. Well, on Binance, for ourselves, we're always trying to promote BNB and trying to make more use cases. For Binance itself, we're always developing products at a very fast pace. To be honest, I can't even keep up myself. The team just like pushing. They're just pushing things out very quickly. So for example, today we're actually pushing out, we actually just launched Ethereum contracts on the Futures platform. So now Binance Futures is a multi-contract platform now, so the Ethereum is out. And we, in a week or so, we're gonna make a change to the Binance Futures platform so that you can use, when you use BNB to pay for futures trading fees, you also get a discount.
Yeah.
So that's very similar to the spot model.
Yeah.
We're continuing with IEOs because we believe that fundamentally fundraising is fundraising, whether it's called IEO, ICO, or whatever else. Fundraising itself using a blockchain is a killer app, and we want to use that to help strong projects grow in the space. So we will continue, and we don't really release that many projects. It's not like we're doing thousands of projects a year. So I think so far from January till now, we did 11 Launchpad projects.
Yeah.
So I think that's kind of the space where we can identify, talk, mentor, advise projects. That's kind of our capacity. because there's a lot of discussion that goes on. We have to advise them on token model, token economics, etc. So that's kind of the pace we're pushing. But I think 11 projects a year is not a lot of it's not too crazy. I think it's very healthy.
Yeah.
So we'll continue to push out IEO projects at the pace where we identify strong projects. So that will continue. And the BNB adoption, BNB is really, we're only doing, Binance is the centralized organization. Our team is really only doing small contributions to it now.
Yeah.
And now there's an ecosystem of players who are just building stuff into it. And I'm the guy who's doing all the tweeting.
Yeah.
So I'm doing all the retweeting. So that's pretty much what's happening with BNB.
Yeah. And are Binance doing any like public grants to get more initiatives going and to use BNB, or is that more private investing that you do behind closed doors? You guys do your own research, or?
So we actually do both. So we have two programs. One called Binance X, which is a grant we give to developers. It's typically $5,000 or $15,000 for a couple of months. And there's no discussion of equity. You don't even have to have a company. All you say is like, I want to develop something. I want to develop some product. I want to write some code. So there's no discussion of equity investment. So it's just a pure grant. Yeah. It's money given to you to support your development. Yeah. So that's Binance X. And we have at least supported like something like around 50 plus developers already in the last couple of months or so. Yeah. since it launched. And there's a Binance Labs, which is a investment into early stage projects where there is a discussion of equity or potentially coins, how much coins we get, how much equity we get. So that's kind of a second step, I guess, after Binance X. So potentially a developer could do Binance X first, and then if the prototype shapes up and this is a good use case, then you can start a company, then we'll invest again, and hopefully then we'll do a launch pad, we'll raise money publicly for you, yeah. And then hopefully we'll list you as well. So that's kind of the whole chain of events that could happen, yeah. And that has happened before. Yeah. So that's kind of what we're doing.
I guess one of the pitfalls of the staking and lending and everything is having coins on exchanges, and there's been, I think, 2 hacks in the past 2 or 3 years. So is there any update on the hacks and the stolen coins? I know Chainalysis and you guys are helping other exchanges that gets hacked. So is that getting better and better, the degree which you can monitor stolen funds?
To be honest, it's yes and no. You can monitor them, but it doesn't mean you can recover them that easily. So we have had very limited success in terms of recovering funds. Yeah. We have had a lot more success in securing the platform, just revamping our security. And most recently, there's a hack instance yesterday with Upbit in Korea. Yeah. So we feel very sorry about that, and we want to help them to do whatever we can. Yeah. So unfortunately, this kind of things happen. But now we're seeing the exchanges taking ownership of it, right? So now Upbit just openly said they're going to cover the losses themselves. So no user funds are impacted. So that's a really, really good sign now. So I think before there was like, whenever there's a big hack, the exchange says they just shut down. So that's not good. So the industry is actually getting better now, I think. And for those who are really, really concerned about centralized exchanges, there's plenty of DEXs. Binance has a DEX on Binance Chain, yeah. Where you do hold your own coins, and I encourage people to do that as well. So there's multiple options now. So I think depending on what you want, we give both options to users, and we don't really promote. We promote Binance.com more because more users are using it. It's just bigger. Users have voted with their money right now, yeah. But we do promote both. Yeah.
Do you think that standard practice has got better and better? So most exchanges would have more than 90% in cold storage, and now we're seeing insurance and custody, Seifu funds and whatnot. So even when the worst case happens, it's still very minimal these days.
Absolutely, I think so. I think the larger exchanges. Exchanges do have a very strong network effect for this reason, not just for liquidity. Liquidity has a very strong network effect, but the larger exchanges have the resources to invest a lot of money into the security infrastructure, the team behind it, multiple wallet solutions, etc. So they can properly separate cold hot wallets, where the hot wallets only keep typically about 2% of the funds, and when even like a big hack where this, like yesterday, there was 50 million lost on Upbit, but these probably represent a very small fraction of the total coins they hold. So yes, it looks like a big number, but they immediately said that they can cover it. and I'm pretty confident they will be able to come back and resume operation pretty soon. So having more mature exchanges, having the scale, having the capability to do this is actually very, very good now.
Yeah.
So I think, whereas before, like this type of hack will really put an exchange under. So, but now I think it should probably only represent a small fraction of the coins they hold. So I think they'll survive.
For sure. Any thoughts on the halving and mining at the moment? Really interesting because we're hearing miners are capitulating and at certain prices they drop offline, but hash rate keeps increasing, so it's getting very competitive. And I think a lot of the Chinese miners are maybe trying to push out weaker miners, but even within themselves, before this halving comes up and that Bitcoin becomes even more precious, do you have any thoughts on the hash rate and the halving coming up?
I think again, my understanding of this topic is quite limited actually. Based on past experience, we've seen the price go up near the halving. So and basically after halving, the same cost are going to mine less coins. So that's kind of in my mind, I don't think that's the right model to evaluate cryptocurrency, because it should not be cost based. It should not be based on how much it costs to mine them. It should really be based on utility, how many people want to use it. But more importantly, the number of available coins to be mined are going to be less. So the fixed supply concept is going to be more apparent. There's going to be less coins coming out of the market, flooding onto the market.
Yeah.
So I think that definitely long term helps and we're getting more and more users into crypto. So I think that over the long term definitely help price go up. And also related on mining, and circling back to China a little bit, China's strongly promoting mining. So mining is totally promoted in China right now. So I think that's also probably a boost to the mining hash rate, difficulty, etc. So we're going to see a lot more mining in China as well. So so I think all of those things do potentially contribute to the price rising near the halving. But I'm not an expert on that issue.
Yeah, I think just one thing I'd want to tell people at home is that everyone is worried that it's too much excitement about the halving. But in 2016, there was a lot of excitement in the crypto community. Sure, we were a lot smaller, but there was a lot of excitement about that. And I think as prices going down, maybe that excitement around halvings dying. So any thoughts? I know you don't really like to talk about price, but it seems like we had a lot of bad news all at once in the last couple of weeks that's maybe driven price down more than it maybe otherwise would have.
Yeah, I absolutely think so. So I think the market always overreact. I think if you look at it's very hard to predict price in the short term, but if you look at 3, 5, 10, 100 years out, blockchain is going to have bigger impact to our society than the internet. And there's going to be a lot more users coming to. So right now, there's probably only about 0.1% of the population who has crypto, or probably less. So there's got to be 1,000 times more you can grow potentially. And we know that this technology is not going away. This technology is going to disrupt the world, and it's going to disrupt our lives. And if we know that's the case, if you look at a longer horizon, there's going to be a lot more people coming in. The applications, the use case is going to be much more widespread. And when people come in, there's limited supply, and price will have no other direction than to go up. So short term is very hard to forecast. There's news, there's rumors, there's FUD. So it just happens. But I think this is why we're in this industry. Otherwise, if I don't believe the long term prospects of it, I would not be in this industry. But I fully believe that blockchain is going to impact human life much bigger than the internet. So that's why we're here.
And I know we've seen Binance is transparent about their profits and everything. Does Binance get to a point where they think, oh, geez, Bitcoin's cheap, or BNB? Do you guys buy the dip every so often?
Actually, to be honest, we can't because our income's already in crypto.
Yeah.
So we're not very good traders. So we actually don't trade that much. We actually don't trade. There are times where we do have to spend money, and there are times where we have to spend fiat, and that's the time where we sell a little bit and just to cover the cost. But other than that, our income's already in crypto. So most of our income is in BNB, and the next largest one is already Bitcoin. A lot of guys still don't know that you can get a discount by holding BNB. Just guys don't know about it.
Yeah.
So there's still, and so it's already proportionally allocated the way we want to allocate pretty much. So large amounts of BNB. The second largest one is BTC, and then the rest kind of smaller.
Yeah.
So that's kind of already the allocation we want, and so we just hold it. We actually don't trade that much at all.
That's fair enough. I guess I want to finish off with just a few little fun questions. So, Craig Wright, Satoshi, do you agree or disagree?
Absolutely not.
No?
There's no way.
Okay. There's a theory going around that when you wear shorts, you think price is going to go down. So are you planning on putting shorts on again anytime soon, CZ? Or?
I'm usually wearing shorts, to be honest. Right now, I'm actually in shorts. I'm in shorts right now. You just couldn't see it right now.
Okay.
So I'm in shorts and flip flops. That's just a joke.
Okay. Maybe too much conspiracy looking into that there. And any plans for you to come to Australia personally soon, or is it going to take a bull market to go around the world and have plenty more meetups?
I would love to. I'm pretty sure I'll make a trip to Australia pretty soon. Given that there's a debit card that's going on today, there's a crypto street that's going on very soon. So I'm pretty sure. And we have a very active community in Australia, so I'm pretty sure I'll make a trip there and hopefully see you in person.
Okay.
Yeah. So I definitely want.
There's some good.
Yeah, I don't know the exact dates. Yeah, but I'll be there.
I'll hold you to that. There's some good cafes and restaurants down in Tasmania where I've got them accepting crypto and BNB, so I'll hold you to that.
Yeah.
Cool. Well,
absolutely.
Thanks for asking or answering the tough questions today, CZ. I appreciate it. I hope you guys appreciate it at home, and I'm sure we'll talk again soon.
Sure. Thank you so much, Alex.
Cheers, guys.